In 1963, a Turkish man picked up a hammer. He was doing home renovations. Nothing unusual, just knocking down a wall in his basement to make more room. Normal Tuesday. The wall came down, and behind it was not more room. Behind it was a tunnel. He stepped inside, found another tunnel, then another, then a staircase going down, then rooms, then more staircases, more rooms, more tunnels. He kept going. 18 floors below the earth, 280 feet underground. An entire city. Not a cave, not a mine, not a storage room. A city with streets, with kitchens, with schools, with churches, with wineries, with stables, with ventilation shafts so precise that fresh air reached every single room on every single floor. A city built to house 20,000 people, hidden underground for thousands of years. And nobody, not a single person on the surface, had any idea it was there. That city is called Derinkuyu, and it is just the beginning of what I need to tell you today, because Derinkuyu is not alone, not even close. Before we go further, I want you to think about something. Think about the building you're in right now. Think about how it was built. Steel beams, power tools, cranes, concrete mixers, engineers with degrees, architects with software, construction crews with decades of training. Now I want you to imagine doing all of that, underground, in the dark, with nothing but a stone pick and a shovel. No blueprint, no structural software, no engineer telling you where the ceiling will hold and where it will collapse. Just you, your hands, and the earth above your head. How long would you last before you quit? Because the people who built Derinkuyu did not quit. They went 18 floors down. They carved ventilation shafts so perfectly calibrated that a candle flame on floor 18 would flicker in the same direction as a candle flame on floor 1. They installed water wells that tapped into underground aquifers, so the city could survive completely sealed from the surface. And they carved circular stone doors, some of them weighing half a ton, that could only be opened from the inside. Think about that for a moment. Those doors could only be opened from the inside. From the outside, they were completely invisible, completely impassable. An enemy army could stand directly on top of Derinkuyu and never know 20,000 people were living beneath their feet. Now here is the question that scientists have been asking since 1963. Who built it? And the honest answer after more than 60 years of research is that we do not fully know. The oldest parts of Derinkuyu may date back to 2000 BC, that is 4,000 years ago. The Hittites were here then, an advanced Bronze Age civilization, but no definitive proof links them to the dig. The Phrygians expanded it. The Byzantines deepened it further. Multiple civilizations, across multiple centuries, kept digging, as if every generation that found it looked around and said, "We can go deeper." And they did. But here is what stops every archaeologist who studies this site. The engineering is too good. The ventilation shafts are too precise. The water system is too sophisticated. The defensive architecture is too complete. Roberto Bixio, founder of the Centro Studi Sotterranei in Genoa, Italy, called Derinkuyu a stone iceberg. He calculated that the part extending below ground is between 6 and 10 times deeper than the buildings visible above it. A stone iceberg, hiding in plain sight, for 4,000 years. And while scientists debate who built it, I want to ask you something different. Why? Why would 20,000 people choose to live underground? Not as a temporary shelter, not as a weekend hiding spot, as a home, with kitchens, with schools for their children, with churches to pray in, with wineries to make wine, with stables to keep their animals. Why would you build an entire civilization below the earth? The answer is the same across every underground city ever discovered. Fear. Not irrational fear. Not the fear of monsters in the dark. Rational, documented, historically verified fear. The fear of the surface. Because on the surface, throughout most of human history, the surface was not safe. Armies moved across it, raiders swept through it, empires collapsed onto it. Plagues spread across it. And the people of Cappadocia, the people who dug these tunnels, lived at the crossroads of the ancient world. Every empire that ever existed passed through their land. The Hittites, the Persians, the Greeks, the Romans, the Byzantines, the Arabs, the Mongols. wave after wave, century after century. And each time the alarm sounded, each time the scouts came running from the hills with news of an approaching army, the people of Cappadocia went underground. They sealed their circular stone doors. They drew their water from their wells. They lit their oil lamps. They fed their animals. They prayed in their churches. They waited, and the armies passed above them. And they survived. But here is what nobody talks about when they talk about Derinkuyu. The moment when it got bad. Not the engineering, not the architecture, not the history. The human moment. Imagine you are a parent, the alarm has sounded. You have perhaps 2 hours. You grab your children, you grab your food, you grab your animals. You go underground. You help seal the stone door behind you. And then you wait. In the dark. 280 feet below the world. Listening. You cannot see the surface. You cannot hear what is happening above. You only know that somewhere up there an army is looking for you. And your children are asking you when you can go home. And you do not know the answer. Some stays lasted days. Some lasted weeks. Some, during the Arab-Byzantine Wars between 780 and 1180 AD, lasted months. Months. Underground. With 20,000 people. In tunnels carved from stone. Ask yourself honestly, could you do that? Because they did. Not once, not twice, over and over, for centuries, and every single time they came back up, they went back to their fields. Back to their animals. Back to their lives. And they kept digging. Going deeper. Building more rooms. Planning for the next time, because there was always a next time. Now I told you at the beginning that Derinkuyu was not alone. Let me show you what I mean. In the same region of Cappadocia, archaeologists have now confirmed over 200 underground cities. 200. Derinkuyu is connected by tunnels, miles of tunnels, to the city of Kaymakli, another underground city. Right next door. 8 floors deep, thousands more people. An underground network beneath the surface of Turkey that we are still mapping today. And in 2013, construction workers in the nearby city of Nevşehir were demolishing old buildings to build a housing development. They hit something. They stopped. Called the archaeologists. What they found was a new underground city. Larger than Derinkuyu. Potentially the largest underground city ever discovered in history. Still being excavated, still being explored, still not fully understood. Sitting beneath a city of 80,000 people who had no idea it was there. And it is not just Turkey. In northern France, a city called Naurs contains over 300 rooms carved into limestone, chapels, stables, bakeries, wells, used for centuries as a refuge from war. When archaeologists analyzed the graffiti on the walls, they found the names of 2,000 Australian soldiers who hid there during World War I. 2,000 soldiers. Using the same tunnels that medieval French villagers carved to hide from Viking raiders. 1,000 years of hiding. In the same underground city. And in Malta, the Hal Saflieni. Hypogum is an underground complex dating back to 4000 BC. 6,000 years old. Carved across 3 levels into solid limestone using nothing but stone and antler tools. 7,000 human remains were found inside. 7,000 people. Who chose to be buried in the same place their ancestors had lived. Because underground was not just where you hid. For these people, underground was sacred. Underground was safe. Underground was home. So what does all of this mean? It means something I think we forget. We look at history and we see the surface, the battles, the empires, the monuments, the kings, the conquests. All of it on the surface. Visible, documented, remembered. But for most of human history, the people who survived, the ones who made it through, were the ones who went underground. The ones who chose invisibility over glory, safety over fame, community over conquest. They did not try to stop the armies. They did not try to fight empires. They carved a hole in the earth. They pulled their families in. They sealed the door. And they waited. And they survived. And they built. And they went deeper. And they kept living. That is not weakness. That is the most human thing I have ever heard. So the next time you think the ancient world was primitive, I want you to remember a man in Turkey in 1963 swinging a hammer at his basement wall. I want you to remember the tunnel behind it. I want you to remember the 18 floors going down. The schools, the kitchens, the churches, the wineries, the circular stone doors that could only be opened from the inside. I want you to remember 20,000 people sitting in the dark 280 feet below an army that was looking for them. And surviving. Not because they were weak, because they were smart, because they planned, because they built, because they chose their children over their pride. The ancient world was not less than us. In some ways, it was more. If this video changed how you see the world beneath your feet, share it with one person who needs to see it too. Because these stories deserve to be remembered. And that is exactly why we are here. This is Ancoria, and we will see you in the next one.